coming back to school with me. We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson Wood. I am your host on Teaching with Board Games. Here today to talk to you about the game Logic Labyrinth by Haba. So look at the report card for Logic Labyrinth. I'm going to give the number of players a B. It plays between 2 to 4 players. That's my standard for a B, so it's a B. So look at the learning for this game. I'm going to give it a C+. There's no real sort of hardcore learning in this game, but when you're talking about games for young children, there's usually not a lot of hardcore learning in it. What this game does, though, is it you have the simple things in there. It's like the dice in the game has a number 3, 4, and 5. So at times you have to identify those numbers, as well as pick out and to count the cards to match the number that you've rolled. So if you roll a 3, you pick 3 cards, a 4, you pick 4 cards, and so on. Then there's the part where you're looking at the spatial recognition. So in the spatial recognition, this is where the game starts to shine a little. You have these different paths that you have to make, and you have to make sure that however you orient the cards, you're going to orient the cards in such a way that you're connecting the paths. But the paths also have to, when you're required to, because you rolled a genie, then you are going to have to make a certain configuration of the cards as dictated by the genie card. So you'll have to see if how your shape is. Well, if I just rotate this 90 degrees, I can achieve this. So there is that element of the spatial recognition in there, which would be what you'd be looking for in this game in terms of if you're trying to teach something or trying to help them understand something, then spatial recognition would be the skill that they'd be learning through this game. For fun, I'm going to give the game a C. Timothy and I played it a few times, and he was just like, yeah. He thought it was okay. It certainly wasn't anything that he's asked to play again. And in my own experience of other games I've seen for kids, this one, it's simple, but there's really not a lot to it, so not as much fun as I would have hoped. But that's my opinion. Yours might be different. But for me, it's a C. For time, I'm going to give the game an A+. I mean, the game is just a tiny little box with a few cards inside, not a lot to it, and the gameplay is the 10 to 15 minutes it says, and that's about accurate. So to have a game which can play that quickly and the setup and strike time would be minimal as well, that is a fantastic game in terms of time in my books. And for cost, again, the game is an A+ for me. I quickly looked it up on Level Up Games before making this video, and this game sells there for just $12 Canadian. So when you can find a game like that for that kind of price, that's a great deal in my opinion. Even if you don't think the game is great, if you get a few plays out of it, then hey, that's, to me, you've got your money's worth out of the game. Plus, if maybe you find that your kids do like this game, in which case then great, you've really made a great investment at that point. But tiny little game, nice little stocking stuffer, $12, you can't go too wrong. All right, let me take this to the table and I'll show you how it's played. So this is what you get inside the box of Logic Labyrinth. You have the dice, you have the cards. Now, notice the dice has printed numbers on them, not pips like you'd find on a regular dice. This is to help the younger players to be able to tell the numbers. Although I think in some ways it might also be nice to have the pips, because then it creates other skills like sabotaging and just the counting and such. You have cards that have 3 treasures on them, cards that have 2 treasures on them. Those are for higher player games. I'm just going to show quickly here what would be like in a 2-player game, in which case you use the treasures with 1 treasure on them. You have your path decks and you have your genie deck. So what happens during the game is that each player rolls a dice, and when you roll a number, you get that each player gets that many cards. So I have to roll a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the rules don't say what happens if you roll a genie first, but what Timothy and I did was we just ignored that until we had some cards to actually play with, because you can't do much. You can't do anything if you don't have the cards. You need these cards to be able to create the paths you need to do to actually play the game. So then you roll again and another 4, so you get 4 more cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these cards are all kept face down as they're dealt out. You're not allowed to look at them. And then you roll, and 5, so you get 5. But you know what? Let's just say it was a genie. So when you get a genie card, what you're going to do is you're going to take one of the genie cards and you're going to reveal it. So you put the genie card down like so. So now the players need to make a using these cards, they're path cards, they need to make a path that follows this configuration. So each player is allowed to turn over one card at a time. So I'll just put these together like this. I'll move these out of the way now, so we have some more space to work with here. So this is what I'm trying to create. So both players have turned this over, so they can rotate these however they want. They're not fixed in any way. And then so they can't do much with one. So now they can turn over a second. Now with the second, they have to join it to this one. When they join it, they have to make sure that the path touches a path. So they can't have it like this, where these paths don't touch here. They have to have the paths touching. So rotating at 90 degrees, you see the paths actually do in fact touch here. But sometimes they're not going to. Like if you look here, you can't do it like this so that there's gaps on either side of the card. They have to be properly aligned on the card. The edge of the cards have to be aligned. So that wouldn't work. But as I showed here, this one does. So we're going to put it like that. And this player, you know, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. So maybe try a different way. There we go, like that. So both players are going to be doing this at the same time, trying to figure out as quick as they can. As soon as they have joined their cards, they can then flip over their next one, and they can then join it. So this player might go like, okay, like that. So they both made an L shape now, which is fine because the end, they have to have something with an L and then one out. So then they both need a card that's going to fit on the end here. Or alternatively, they can also think about turning their shape around like this, so that way it configures that way. So it's this whole idea of how can you turn and view these things in such a way to, oh, did I cheat there? Is that not fitting? No, that's not fitting at all. I'm such a cheater. But anyway, not fitting. Okay. There. So you can turn these things however you want. I mean, or this for that matter. But the idea is that in the end, however you get it, you have to have it so that the shapes match. So where I have 3 and 1, yes, that matches now that configuration of that shape. So that's what you're going for. Whichever one of the players can do that first is the one who's going to take the treasure card. The treasure card, whoever has the most treasure at the end of the game is the winner. So in a 2-player game, you're only having the 1 treasures, but say like in a 4-player game, you're going to have each round, you're going to have one 3 treasure card, 1 2 treasure card, 1 treasure card, and then the last player to finish each round gets nothing. So it's a speed game to recognize and orient these cards in such a way to make the paths to then match the path that the genie has shown you, and then you're the first one to reach the treasure. And that is how you play Logic Labyrinth. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. If you have any questions about Logic Labyrinth, please leave me a message in the comments section below, and I'll answer you as soon as I can. If you have any other suggestions for games, maybe games by Haba or other educational games that you are aware of that you might like to see on the channel, please leave me a message in the comments section below. I put my videos out on a weekly basis. My whole theme of the channel is to do topics of gamification, game-based learning, all about how we use board games and different types of games in education to help promote learning. So whether you're a teacher in a classroom or a parent at home, this is the kind of thing that I'm trying to put out, and you are my intended audience. So please, if this sounds interesting to you, hit like and subscribe down below. Maybe a little bell button to let you know when I put out new content. I do love to hear from the viewers, and it makes me feel great whenever I see new people are subscribing. Well, until next time, I'm Craig Thompson Wood, your host with Teaching with Board Games, saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school?